to any owner-occupiers that are listening is if you are confident in your business, why would you pay someone else's mortgage off?
We're selling our third building out of the 4. Most people would just give up.
We still have a bit of a rental crisis, but the people who suffer the most are the renters.
Hey, I'm Kane Tyler Smith, the founder and CEO of SmartFix and High Potential. This is Unlocking Business, where we have real conversations around business, leadership, mindset, and personal growth. If you've been getting value from these conversations, please take a second to like, subscribe, and follow our channels. It helps us reach more people, bring on more guests, and share more stories. Now, let's get into this episode. Today, I'm joined by Luke Randazzo from Burgess Rawson. You've helped me buy and sell a couple of commercial properties. Beyond that, I've always found you to be a genuine operator who understands property, business, and most importantly, customer service. You have a double degree in commerce and economics, and were one of the youngest shareholders as a director of Burgess Rawson, brokering more than 450 million in transactions and hundreds of leasing deals. I know the residential market is chaotic at the moment. What's happening in the commercial world?
Morning, Kane. Thanks for having me. Look, commercial world is still, I'm really positive and bullish on it. The WA market is pretty insulated from the rest of the country and almost the rest of the world, and there's still a lot of capital for good product. The last probably 2 months, and particularly post-budget, has spooked a few buyers and investors. I think the current Labor government's probably doing their best to disencourage investment as a whole, but the resi market's been hit way harder than our commercial market. So I know a lot of people in our industry are actually trying to turn that into a positive, where commercial has been untouched by these new laws that have been put in place and are kind of still open for business in that sense for investment. So commercial is good. Different asset classes are performing better than other ones. But yeah, WA is still in a pretty strong position.
Yeah, so disencourage is probably a nice way of putting that, because they've, as we just spoke about before, they've pretty much stopped any investors buying any residential unless it's a new build.
Correct. So basically any investor to buy an existing house as of July 1 that they're obviously not going to use as their primary place of residence, they're not going to get the benefits of negative gearing or capital gains tax now. So virtually that whole implementation has meant there's no investors in this market anymore, and that then encourages the first home buyers to get into the market. But my strong position, I know a lot of people would agree, is that's probably not the correct way to encourage first home buyers or even encourage our residential market to keep growing. You can't just shut out people who are investors. An investor means that someone's saved money, sacrificed, put their neck out, and also solves the rental issue in WA. And we still have a bit of a rental crisis. So the people who suffer the most out of this, the investors will be okay. They'll allocate their capital elsewhere. But the people who suffer the most are the renters. And in any global housing market, you have to have renters. Not everyone wants to be a buyer. So it's just simple demand and supply, and we will see rents go up, and those who can't necessarily afford to buy a house or don't want to be a homeowner, not everyone, you have to remember, wants to be a homeowner, have a 30 or 40 year mortgage, financial noose around their neck, they'll suffer because their rents will go up. That's an absolute reality.
So why will rents go up then? Is that because there's not enough investors?
That's right.
Properties.
Spot on. So if we don't have investors do solve that issue. Basically, what's recently been implemented has meant that the government is only wanting owner-occupiers in the market, other than our existing investors who own properties. And a lot of those are spooked as well, and they'll probably sell out at some point too.
So existing investors and deals done before last financial year, this doesn't affect them? That's
right. They're all grandfathered is the term, so they can continue to negative gear and they're not impacted. But I think it's only a matter of time before, especially depending on the demographic and age of those investors, that they sell up and simplify as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I wonder what do you think the government's thought process is then are they trying to make it so that the houses for sale is less competitive because there's not investors potentially outbidding the younger people?
Yep. And there is some truth to that. You look at, as recent as, let's call it 6 to 9 to 12 months ago, there was a really strong theme of East Coast investors buying properties in WA sight unseen and outbidding WA buyers. And that is disheartening for WA buyers. So I can empathise or see that side of things, but I think the government unfortunately has just had this one lens and this one position of we're just helping young people get into the market. But there's so many other factors you have to consider because, yes, you're helping young people get into the market, but again, you're you're kind of disrupting a whole lot of other things. And like I alluded to, is your renters are the ones who are really going to suffer.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting how it plays out. But those laws don't affect commercial at all.
No. And that's where, again, the industry, the commercial industry is pivoting now to really sell itself as the fact that we're untouched by those tax reforms. And as a result, we're open for business. Come and invest in commercial anyway.
Yeah, okay. So one more question on residential then. Can they, so new builds, if I'm an investor and I want to do residential, I can do a new build property. Yep. But can you still claim that as a, I know
the negative.
Yes, negative gearing.
Negative gearing's fine.
You can do negative gearing.
Yep, that's my understanding as well. So then I suppose the flip side of that's encouraging new developments and new builds then hypothetically solve the supply issue.
Yeah.
And
but there's not enough trades or houses being built.
Correct. and a big issue in WA as well is a lot of the trades have been diverted to public work. So all this expenditure by a state government at the moment, if you're a trade, are you going to take a private job where you think, I'll probably get paid, but there's a chance I won't, or are you going to take a public job? Of course, you're going to take a public job. It's guaranteed. So
when you say public, as in government funded?
Yeah. Metronet, government funded projects. So that rips a lot of our labour out as it is as well. So there's a huge shortage of housing, and that's a national shortage as well. Migration's at an all-time high. Any country needs migration, but obviously it needs to be within a controlled measure that you have enough housing to house the people that are coming into the country. But then,
so I suppose that would be affected as well if we've got migrants coming in that they can't buy houses.
Yeah, absolutely. It just adds to the melting pot.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, you throw in the 5% deposit scheme that the government's put in place as well. And I just think that's insanity. I think it's actually really unfair to those who are taking advantage of it. And I'm sure there's people who would disagree with that. But if you're putting 5% up, that means you're borrowing 95%. So good luck paying off your principal. And then if the market does go down a little bit, and it's been in the news recently, this concept of negative equity, you're already behind. People are going to have a lot of sleepless nights if you've got yourself in the market and then your house goes down by 5%. And then you're not paying any principal off, and you're going to have a 40 or 50 year financial noose around your neck because you're just paying interest.
Does that put the banks at high risk as well?
Yeah, certainly does. So whether it's like a big short, I don't think it's to that extreme of subpar lending, but I just think it's irresponsible to be doing 5% deposits. I'm probably old school in the sense that should be able to put up 20%, and that kind of warrants being able to buy a house. But borrowing 95% is frightening.
And is that properties up to the value of $850K?
Yes, I think it's for first home buyers, correct.
And there's rumours that'll go up though because the average house price is way higher than that.
That's right. And if you only look at evidence, even in everyone used to always just refer to Sydney as the gold standard, but you look at WA's median house price, it's in the last 3 years, it's just experienced double-digit growth every year. It's been incredible. So, and that's probably more a product of, let's wind back 10 years where growth was quite stagnant, whereas if we had consistent growth, even if it was 4 or 5% a year, then you'd probably not find that we would have this insane correction that we've had over the last 3 years. So a lot of people have benefited, but there's a lot of people who have suffered from it as well because they've been wanting to get in the market, haven't really jumped in, and then just watched the market go ballistic. So I'm optimistic, and I do empathise for first home buyers. I'm optimistic that some people can get in the market now with the recent reform, but there's always winners and losers. That's how it works. And again, not to go political, because I'm certainly not interested or a politician in any sense, but they're kind of damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. So that's in any decision they generally make. There's going to be a party, major or minor, that's going to be upset, or population of people.
Why do you think, sort of through school and early career years, everyone just talks about buying investment properties, buy your home, buy an investment property in residential, and it's never spoken about commercial? Like, I never thought of buying commercial as an investment until they're probably like late 20s, early 30s.
Yep.
Why is that?
It's a good question. I think it's a social stigma as well. And look, I agree, is if anyone was listening now and wanted my advice, I would be saying, get your house first before doing commercial. I really do believe in that. Kind of get your base and your headquarters and make sure that you're sorted out with a house first and then explore commercial. And generally for most people financially, that's the order that you take. If you're buying a house, then you've kind of got to stockpile your reserves again to then save that deposit, and you need a bigger deposit to do commercial than you would for resi. Let's talk in real terms for resi's 20/80, don't worry about the 5%. Commercial, loaning wise, you probably got to put up 35%. So I don't know many young people who have gone, I'll go and buy a factory unit or an office investment or a retail asset, something like that, before I buy my house. It just seems, 99.9% of investors will be buying their home first.
Mm-hmm. And you think you reckon that's the right way to do it?
Yeah, I do.
Like their principal home, not an investment property.
I mean, if you buy if you don't buy your principal home, are you going to live with mum and dad till you're 35? Like, again, it's subject to each person's financial position, but I think it makes sense to kind of have a roof over your head that's yours. There's some gutsy investors out there who might say they rent and then buy commercial, but the other thing I would say as well is you need a level of sophistication when investing in commercial property, because if you don't know what you're doing, you can really get unstuck there, where you buy something for too much because you buy it on a yield, but little did you know it's over rented by 15%. Then you have vacancy risk where a tenant moves out, and depending on the asset, it could take several months to fill it up again. You're paying the outgoings during that period of time. So I'm not disencouraging commercial. It's what I live and breathe, and I love commercial property, but there needs to be an understanding, a level of sophistication when buying commercial, because most of the time, if commercial property goes vacant and a residential house goes vacant, it's easier to lease the house or rent the house out within a short period of time than it is to rent the property out, the commercial property out, generally speaking.
But I suppose on the flip side, when you do get a commercial lease in place, it's usually 3 to 5 years, whereas residential is shorter term.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to remember, in commercial leases, tenant pays all your outgoings. Obviously, if it's retail, there's a Retail Tenancy Act and there's a few quirks to that. But commercials, the simple term of higher risk and higher reward is true to form.
Mm-hmm.
So, we buy a house, landlord still pays council rates, land tax, water rates, strata levies, insurance, all of those things. You invest in commercial for whatever reason, that's the tenant's responsibility. So management fees as well. So if you can get it right in commercial, it's probably a lot more lucrative, yeah. And that's why housing might have a 3 to 4% return and commercial assets can have 6 to 7%.
Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. So,
yeah, it's interesting because when we started obviously working with you with the commercial property, when I first learned about it, it did sound like a no-brainer for especially someone like me that can have our business that operate from our commercial building.
Yep.
And then learning about the self-managed super fund scenario where we can use our money that we already got in super to buy property and basically have to pay no deposit because it's in your super.
Yep.
I obviously learned about that, I think quite late in my sort of time. Is that common? Do a lot of people buy commercial property and self-managed super and then they lease it?
It's really prevalent nowadays where people do that. And the best type of buyers in commercial, I think, in terms of ones that are really set up to succeed, are owner-occupiers, because you put your own, you can buy it through your super fund, put your business in there and then pay yourself a rent, as long as you're confident in your business and that you can sustain that rent and keep paying your repayments. It's kind of the most ideal circumstance. And to any owner occupiers that are listening is if you are confident in your business and that you're going to have a sustainable business for, let's call it, between 5 and 10 years, then why would you pay someone else's mortgage off? Go and find something and pay it off, and then you've got an asset as well.
Mm-hmm. That's what we thought.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I always use the term that a commercial property for owner occupiers is a vehicle to park your business, and your business should be generating money as well. And then, if you buy right and buy correctly, you might even get a little bit of, capital, hopefully get some capital growth in there as well. So it's an ideal circumstance.
Would that be potentially a fairly high risk situation? Because if the business does start to not go under, but produce less money, and they have the flexibility to stop paying the rent to their super, obviously the super's highly regulated and you legally have to pay market rent within that financial year. Do you think that's risky for someone then if they've got sort of all their eggs in one basket, their self-managed super fund property, their business is renting it,
Yes.
if shit hits the fan in the business, they could lose
Yes,
everything.
but if you buy a good property that's relatively universal in the sense that it works for your business, but can it work for someone else's business? Therefore, if your business does start to suffer and you go, okay, we've got to downsize, we've got to move out, we've got to do something differently, can you rent it to someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you've got a super specialised property and it's like only works for Kane's business or Luke's business, and you can't really rent it to someone else unless you have to make major modifications or major changes, that's when it becomes a little bit trickier. But if it's a relatively, again, I use the word universal property that goes, okay, yep, it's an office warehouse, any other operator can use it, it's got decent parking, it's easy to access, then yeah, we can rent it elsewhere and it still serves a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you can kind of separate business and property as well.
So with that, I know a lot of people, when they do take on a long-term lease, they will do a fit out. Fit outs are very expensive.
Yeah.
Why is it that when the lease ends, I could be wrong here, but most of the time the tenant is required to remove the fit out?
Yep.
That seems mental to me.
Yeah, I guess it basically that's called make good, and the make good comes back to landlord's discretion. So if it adds value to the property, then the landlord might say, you can leave it here, or we'll even cut a deal in terms of you don't have to make good, or I'll buy part of your fit out from you because the next person can come in and utilise it. Alternatively, if it's super specialised to what you do and the landlord goes, I don't think I'm going to relet it because of the colour of the walls or the product that you've used, and you've got to kind of start again. And that's a bugbear for a lot of tenants, is spending a bomb on someone else's property. So that's an interesting one, and that's where those conversations come up of, I just want to buy my own property because then whatever I spend on it's mine anyway. And alternatively, tenants asking landlords for fit-out contributions because it's their property that they're going to be upgrading. Okay. So again, depends on the asset class. Like if you talk incentive, if you talk industrial, the guys in our office, I don't specialise in industrial, but the guys have virtually got no incentive, no rent-free. But then if you go into the office market, incentive is really prevalent. So, and that's always in the form of rent-free or fit-out contribution, and generally you just work out a percentage and then you can do it, kind of go back to the tenant and say, how do you want to take this incentive in the form of rent-free, a fit-out contribution, a combination of both, one or the other.
So that's like a negotiation to try and get the tenant to do potentially a longer-term lease.
Yeah, that's right. So
or a higher lease.
The incentive, the size of the incentive in dollar figures, not as a percentage but dollar figures, will be bigger if it's a longer lease. So then it's give and take. The landlord then would have technically guaranteed tenure, which is, okay, I've got a 3-year term. Actually, I want a 5-year term. So 36 months versus 60 months. If you've got 60 months, that means you've got income for another 24 months and 3. I'll give you more upfront to get that guaranteed tenure for the extra 24 months.
Interesting.
In saying that, the office, just to divert a little bit, the office market is in an interesting position, I would say, where you're probably not seeing as many 5 to 7 year deals. They're more, I'm going to go as far as saying like 2 to 3 year deals. So obviously bigger CBD ones where there is a greater investment into the fit out, then they might take longer deals. But I definitely think post-COVID that the office market, those terms have definitely gotten shorter.
And in those scenarios, it'd be better for the tenant to have shorter terms.
Well, it's more about the uncertainty of what they need, and post-COVID has struck a lot of uncertainty into office users. I mean, our staff, we've got 80 staff and we were all 5 days a week. Our sales team still come in 5 days a week because the nature of what we do, but our property managers would probably do 3 days a week and then have that flexibility of the other 2 where they're still working but not necessarily in our office.
And they still do that to date now?
Yeah, we do. So then that just leads to, what are your requirements for an office? Do you still need an office that's X square meters, or can you work differently? Can you hot desk? Can you have more areas where people can make, quiet phone calls and then work in, we call it activity-based work, where you hot desk in smaller areas where they don't necessarily need a big chunky desk 5 days a week. So that's something that not just our business, but all businesses are continuously reviewing.
Do you think it affects people's performance if they do have that flexibility and they don't have a designated place to work?
I think it comes back to the individual and the nature of their role. If you were asking someone who is in IT and doing coding, does it matter if you come to St. George's Terrace to do it, or could you do it from your bedroom in your house on a computer? They'll probably go, does not matter. I don't need to come in. It's not about culture. It's like, here's my work, I'll do it. It doesn't even matter if they're doing it from 9 to 5. But then if you ask someone who's like myself, who's in sales, we got to be in every single day because you feed off each other, you actually share information, you listen to each other in the office. Like, so it depends on the individual and also then the nature of what industry you work in.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, some people do, like you're saying, like the coders specifically.
Well, it's just an
they
example.
don't want to be around other people.
No, they don't. So it's and even within our own office, I mean, we've got different departments of valuation, finance, sales and leasing, and property management, and we're all, I would almost go as far as saying, different characters, and our jobs require different things. So I find the sales and leasing guys can also be kind of loud and chaotic on the phones, and the property managers probably think that even though they're in a different part of the office is like, can you guys just be quiet and let us do our work? So they probably get some peace and quiet and reprieve on the days that they do get to work from home. Yeah, the pen, that's it. So I think you've got to have kind of an open mindset and really consider who the individual is, because that's also important, not just their role, but how do they work well? Is it disruptive to have chaos, or is it, do they get more work done when it's peace and quiet, or vice versa? Like I'd say, as me personally, I really thrive in that chaotic environment because you've got everyone around you and you're feeding off each other, but we're all trying to transact. So that's the nature of what we do.
It's a very hard one. We've been in different positions where we've had everyone in individual offices, half the team in an open area. We're still trying to work it out now, and I still don't know what I prefer, to be honest. Sometimes I might work a day from home here or there and I'll get insane amounts of work done.
Yeah.
But then if you get into a routine of doing that, it tapers off. So I think it's just that change in scenery.
Yep.
Just going back to commercial leases being such a long term, I understand there's obviously contracts in place for those long terms. What happens if someone does have a long-term lease, let's say 5 years, the business fails at 2 years? How can they get out of that, or can't they?
Look, they can't unless they take certain actions in terms of defaulting themselves, and then they'll lose their form of security they put in place. Generally, that's a form of a bank guarantee or a security bond. Industry standards anywhere from 3 to 6 months of gross rent up front. So then at least the landlord has a little bit of security and in turn time to then make arrangements. But basically, if a tenant did get in that position, they would have to make a decision on, are we going to assign the lease to someone else? So try and find someone else that they can assign the lease to. And obviously the landlord's got to agree with who that tenant is. So it's got to be of an equal or better quality. B, sublease. So they still keep their name on the head lease, keep paying the rent that they've agreed to, and then sublet to somebody else. Or 3 is find a surrender option. And that surrender option is generally quite an expensive option as well, where they might engage a leasing agent, for example, and then try and get out altogether. But yeah, there's generally costs involved either way. Does
this happen often?
No, it's not too often, but it does happen in the market. Of course, it does. Things change. Things don't always go as people and businesses plan. It can also happen because businesses are growing. I had an office lease I did a few years ago. For a software company who recently in West Perth that recently called and said, we now need double the size. So our lease doesn't finish till later in 2027, but we need more space. So, I did the same example where here are your options. You can engage us to then find a subtenant for you, or we can try and, assign the lease. You can terminate, we can advertise, and then you just go down that path. So it's not always doom and gloom, and sometimes a positive reason. In this case, a business is busted at the seams because they've grown really quickly, faster than they anticipated when they signed that 3-year lease.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't get a second property because they probably want everyone in the same building. Spot
on. Well, that was something we offered them if they wanted the floor below, because that was coming up in 6 to 12 months, and they said, no, we want everyone on the same floor. That's how we operate. So, we don't want a staircase separating us.
That's so interesting. That's something that we've learned a lot, as you know. Like, we've had 4 buildings at one point, and even though they're in the same complex next door, 10 meters away, or even up and down the stairs, it makes in my opinion, makes such a huge difference for culture being physically in the same building.
That's separation. Yeah, definitely.
Even if it's so close, like sometimes it's easy just to get up and go and walk and talk to someone.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's where I suppose I'll say the sales guys in our office get a bugbear because we're all extroverted, wanting to talk. So we want to get up and tap someone on the shoulder, whereas you have different, I suppose, personalities who prefer to just deal by email or Teams. And that's normal and great as well. But I think, again, I can only refer to my own personal experience. Sales guys want everything here and now. So you just want to get up and get an answer straight away so you can keep pushing a transaction. But there are people who just prefer to do it all via emails and Teams chats and slow and steady. So again, comes back to that theme of the individual.
It does, the individual and the business. We have a combination of both at the moment. We've got some individual offices, some open areas. We have chats for everything because sometimes we'll go and speak to someone, have the conversation, but we also will then put that in writing so there's a paper trail and so that the rest of the team are in the loop, because that's a common problem we have is I might have a conversation with someone, we might agree to make a change, we make the change and then forget to tell 10 other people.
Communicate it back to everyone else.
Yeah. So we're getting better at that, but a lot of things rely on good communication.
Absolutely. Yep.
And our sales team that we have on the road, they're on the road full time. Say they would thrive off being able to chat with the guys in person, but they don't. It's just not physically possible because they're driving between job to job. Yep. So we're trying to implement things where once a month we'll get them in for a bit of a sales meeting, but then also maybe we might need to actually add a second one in that is on Teams, like a video call chat, because it is expensive for us to physically get them to the office.
Yeah, of course, especially if they're going to all corners of Perth and WA, right?
Yeah.
So, it makes sense. But
2 Rocks and Mandurah, everywhere in between.
Of course.
Expensive on fuel and travel and time.
Yep. So, communication and documentation are pretty important in that sense.
Especially in your industry.
Oh, big time. Absolutely. Certainly is.
Highly regulated.
Yeah.
What got you into commercial real estate in the first place?
It was kind of just by chance. I met my partner, Rob Sellard, and while selling outdoor furniture was a uni job for me in Osborne Park, and him and his wife, Deanna, were customers, and I sold them some furniture, and then, he just said, I think you'd be good at, this is what I do, and I think you'd be good at it, and that's how it all kind of eventuated. I still had a little bit of study to do and some travel. We stayed in touch for a couple of years, and then I was coming home from a 6-month holiday and decided it was coming home to basically back to full-time work, and was assessing jobs in finance and accounting, and then I kind of thought, I don't know if I've got the patience to sit at a desk and look at a spreadsheet for 8 or 9 hours of the day, and I thought this would be an interesting industry to give it a go anyway. So I started in Feb 2016 at Burgess Rawson, and never looked back. I really love the industry. I love the fact that you can kind of, no 2 days are the same, which sounds a bit cliche, but you can kind of really make it happen. And that's what's been the best part of this job, is that it's your success or lack of success is up to you entirely. There's no ceiling on what you can or can't achieve and how fast you want to achieve that. And that's been the best part. So it's either, to your benefit or detriment, how hard you want to work. And that's been, it's been a really, fantastic industry to be a part of. I'm really passionate about the industry and improving the standards in the industry as well. Unfortunately, I still think that the barriers to entry to be a resi or a commercial real estate agent are just far too low. It's a 2-week course virtually, and you're in, and then you have that responsibility to sell someone's, a lot of people might just have one asset their whole life, which a lot of times is just their family home, but it could be one big asset, and then you do a 2-week course and you're given the responsibility and what I use the word is a privilege to then act on this person's behalf. It's just, I don't think we're qualifying real estate agents enough. And then I think if you did qualify them more, the industry would have a higher standard. And unfortunately, I'm not saying anything people have never heard before, but residential and commercial real estate agents get a bad rap. Like, it's that cliche of the sleazy or untrustworthy real estate agent. It's like one rung above a used car salesman. So my probably broader ambition is to increase the standards of our industry, because if you increase the standards, then you have higher quality of work and a more respected and higher performing industry as well.
So is it the same course to become a commercial real estate as residential?
It's the same. Yep.
It's literally the same.
The 2-week course. You go into Rebo, or you can do it online.
I've actually done it.
Yeah.
I've done it a long time ago.
Yeah. So, and then they give you a license and there you go, you're away. So
do you have to do time with someone after the 2-week course?
You have to do the assignment, but no, I don't think you have, unless it's changed since I did it 10 years ago, which I don't think it has. It's still pretty easy to do. So yeah,
that is pretty wild.
Well, I just think if you had a course that was like any other course, people go to uni or TAFE for several years. I don't know if it has to be several years, but even if it was a course for 6 to 12 months, you'd get people who genuinely want to be in the industry and are willing to put that time in. It's like anything, the short-term pain to gain the long-term advantage or gain to actually, because they really want to be in that industry. But what happens is, and they told us this at Rewa when I did it 10 years ago, they go, in 5 years' time, I think the stat is like 8% of the people in the room will still be doing real estate. And that's the stories you hear. You sit in the room and there's so many people that are just trying it because it seems like that easy industry where you can make a lot of money overnight. But a total reality from my own experience is that you're only successful by really grinding it out, especially those first few years are hard. It's helpful if you start, I think I was 22, 23 when I started. It helps because I was still living at home. Mum and dad had virtually no expenses, but first few years are hard because no one knows who you are. You don't know anything. You really have to establish yourself. So to anyone who's considering the industry, it's got to be a long-term play if you really want to make it.
Yeah, I think a big important part of that is definitely like you don't know anyone and no one knows you. And obviously like you've done work for me for years.
Yeah.
And that's because you have that relationship. So
The
you would have relationships with so many people that would also refer to you as well.
Absolutely.
So on that note, do you have do you work on your personal brand, social media to try and keep that?
Not really. I'm pretty bad with social media. I couldn't tell you the last time I used LinkedIn or anything like that. The guys in the office are always encouraging it, but for better or worse, I'm probably a little bit old school in that sense that I'm just a little bit more under the radar and, just deal with real people like you and it works for me.
And with those contacts you already have, you're probably busy enough to have to spend the time doing it.
Yeah, it is. It's always busy. And I think I've always just referred to it as like a snowball that as your career goes on, the snowball keeps getting bigger and that snowball is your network. And what I've always told, especially the young guys coming in now is deals always lead or transactions lead to more transactions because every transaction, I meet Kane who is my buyer, but then I also just dealt with my seller. And then Kane and his seller have a whole network of people. So if you do a good job and the right thing by both sides, they're going to go, speak to someone whenever that is. It's, Luke did a really good job if you need the right person. And that sounds a little bit cliche, but it's so real that if you do a good job, you kind of just keep building your network organically. So that's why I don't really do much. Again, maybe I should be doing more on LinkedIn and I don't have Instagram or anything like that, but I should be doing more on those things. But I've never really seen that it's really yielded. I haven't then got a message out of the blue to say, hey, I saw you, that you did this, can you sell my property? It's never really worked like that. It's probably been more pounding the pavement, and that's a metaphoric term in the sense of still cold calling and trying to pick up business, do a deal, call the neighbours and say, hey, we just sold this. What's yours worth? And then play the long game there. And
do you do that?
Oh, absolutely. You have to. It's such an easy call because you are calling a prospective client and they might have zero interest in selling anyway, but you're offering them information. And that's really different to just saying, hey, Kane, I'm Luke Randazzo from Burgess Rawson. Do you want to sell your property? You go, hi, Kane, I'm Luke Randazzo from Burgess Rawson. We recently sold the property next door to you. Or even go one further. If you haven't done any deals and you're just starting, go, the property next to you recently just sold, even if you didn't do the deal. You're ringing and giving some information, which then means, hey, Kane, I'm offering you some value. And that's all it is. And then you either make a decision, as Kane makes a decision, goes, more follow-up questions. Okay, what did it sell for? I might be in the market to sell in the next 3 years. Or, hey, thanks, no worries. Can I take your email? Can we keep in touch? And that might be a 5, 6, 7 year play. That's why, I go back to that point, it's got to be the long game.
How much time do you spend doing those cold calls?
You got to do I would say 10 a week, and that doesn't sound like much, but if you do 10 calls a week over a year, that's 500 calls. So, or just points of contact.
How many times has it happened where you've been able to get a deal in place fairly quickly?
I would say quickly is less common. Long game is, or medium to long game is more likely, but it does. I think it does work if you just keep prospecting.
It'd have to work. Like, it's so funny you say that. And again, obviously you've done these deals pretty much for us, but like in our complex, when we were turning over good money, when we bought Unit 1, which obviously was through you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Unit 1 and Unit 9.
Yes. Yep.
So when we bought those through you, we had the fish and chip shop on the corner, as you know, and I just asked him. I called him and said, "Hey, would you be interested in selling your property, because we're opposite you and we need the space and I love your building." And I think it was like a week or two, like it was like a hard no, like no, like we're all good, blah blah blah. I've just got new tenants in. I think that was it. We just got new tenants in for the new fish and chip shop or whatever it was. And yeah, I think it was 2 weeks later, he called me and said, "Oh, the tenants left the country, gone back to wherever they were from.
Yep.
We're keen to sell." Yep. And then we managed to buy
you
that.
just plant the seed, and then that's
if you
how it
don't
works
ask, you don't get.
100%.
And then the neighbour, as you know, the neighbour in Unit 7, which the building we're in now, same thing. We're like, "Hey, we really want your building." And obviously we had a lot of, it was so funny, like Julie, like she's an interesting person. And we had so much like back and forth with her about parking and her raging at us parking in her bays and everything. But one day we bought her a hamper. Like, "Look, we're so sorry for parking. We know it's a nightmare. Our tradies don't listen. Here's a hamper. Best thing we ever done." And then like a bit later on, we said, like, "If you did ever want to sell, like, let us know." She's like, "I'm not selling you guys. Like, no way." I was like, "Okay." Keep bumping into her, keep waving to her, be nice, do the right thing. And yeah, one day she's like, "Okay, you can have them." There was two side by side, and we managed to get the other person, the concrete guys, the other building, because there was two, which he wanted it forever, but he never asked. So I asked a question and eventually got it done. Yeah,
it's a people game. You got to always remind yourself that behind every business or every deal, you're just dealing with people. So you're not dealing with a computer, it's a person game. So if you kind of, be consistent and keep doing the right thing by people, eventually something happens.
Yeah. And that's obviously something I mentioned at the start of the intro, was always about you and your customer service. And like I have dealt with a lot of real estates in my time, and I do find it hard to find ones that understand what customer service is or provide a high level of customer service. And it does piss me off, because I'm like, why don't you just do your job properly, and you'll get so much repeat work. Like it's insane. It's actually insane.
It comes back to what I was alluding to of like low standards in the industry. Like again, you just think how it's not brain surgery. How hard is customer service? It's not hard. If someone calls you, call them back if you miss their call. Like, it's so simple. Or if you've taken someone through an inspection, make a note and follow them up. Like, it's just like the most basic principles, but if you don't do them, it just
even follow-up's a good point, because with SmartFix, our trade business, we're heavy on follow-up now. And again, you've spent the money to get the leads in, which we obviously do. We send the guys to site to do the quote, send them the quote. Most people would leave it at that, but we don't. So we will call them now. We'll arrange a phone call. "Hey, if you want to speak to your partner tonight, whatnot, we'll give you a call tomorrow afternoon, or when suits you, and book in that time to call them." And the amount of work we get from that is crazy. I don't have stats, but I'd say it's 10-15% of extra work that we've got from doing it.
Just follow up.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
It's not.
Yeah. So it's just, I guess, and I always myself am working, and I could be so much better with my system. And there's guys in the office who have a better system. But if you have a good system and now utilize the programs, like we use Salesforce, and Salesforce has the new task and the follow-up. So you get the bring up on your computer screen, even if that's in 6 months or 12 months or 2 weeks, whatever it is. But the tech's there. It's hardly tech, but just to make your life easier as well. So you don't really have to be like a genius or anything. You just have to have a system and then have a sense of discipline to follow it as well.
And I know you can automate follow-ups with email, SMSs, but comparing them to phone call, we found is significantly...
Agreed.
You have to call.
Yep, that's right.
At least once. At least once.
Agreed.
Our work is obviously going to be different to yours, because your deals are way higher than our average job value is probably like $800.
Yep.
Whereas yours is different. So sometimes the guys will get slack and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to call that one. It's only $400." But it's like, just do it.
Yep.
Just do the things, because if they agree to do that job with you and then they have something else happens in 2 weeks' time, they're probably going to call us again. Whereas if you don't follow up and they end up using someone else that maybe they followed up.
Yep. You become their person or their contractor of choice. Yep. Definitely. So just simple things, but we can all do it a lot better.
If someone had $1 million to invest today, how do you think they should invest?
Okay, I'll put a caveat on that question in that, has that person bought their house yet? Because I've made my position pretty clear.
Yes.
And that's my own personal opinion. I really think you should buy your house first. So assume they've bought their house, and now it might be a young couple in their 30s. They've bought their house and they've paid a good whack of their mortgage off, and now they've built up another deposit to try and do something else where they can spend up to $1 million. Is that the scenario? We'll work on that.
Yeah.
I would encourage commercial investment at that point, especially given what we alluded to earlier, the fact that negative gearing is out of the picture now. So housing is virtually off the table as an investor. You've got your house to live in. The one to invest in isn't really financially or commercially viable. I would encourage buying in commercial, but with the caveat of the fact that you need to buy it well. And buy well means, is there any rental upside? Is there any vacancy risk that you can take on but you're confident to rent it out later? If you do have vacancy risk, is it going to be empty for 3 to 6 months? So buying the right commercial property is everything. The asset classes that are performing quite well at the moment, in my opinion, is industrial, and I still like retail as well. So retail has a few quirks because management fees, for example, are not recoverable from the tenant. Market reviews can go up or down, whereas most commercial leases mean that they have what's called a ratchet clause. So at the market review, we generally build in the fact that the rent can't go down, whereas retail is like a true market rent. But those would be the two asset classes I would suggest would be retail or industrial. Office is still taboo post-COVID, which I kind of touched on already. The only other thing I would say is, unfortunately, $1 million doesn't really get you much anymore. So you are most likely looking at buying a strata, and getting a quality green title asset is possible, but you're not really going to get something in the metro or within, let's call it, 30 Ks from the CBD. You'd be pretty lucky to get something for $1 million nowadays. That's standalone for $1 million. That's green title.
So green title was it's its own property. It's not got other tenants
right.
within the same complex.
Yeah, yep, not a strata. That's right.
So I suppose retail would be the opposite. A retail would potentially be something in a shopping centre or
strip shops or something like that. That's right. Where it's
whereas like you don't own like the building, the outside, like you own like from the walls in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, it depends. Like this complex here is a survey strata, which you don't see as much of, which is you actually buy like a parcel of land within a greater parcel of land. But most commonly it's called built form strata, where you are buying the building, the physical improvements within a greater complex.
So what does industrial look like?
Strata-wise?
Just in general, like if you mentioned about retail or industrial.
Yep. You'd just be buying a little office warehouse. I mean, $1 million if they're trading at, a rate per square metre. I don't do industrial, but can get between $3,000 and $4,000 a metre now for like blue chip locations, Aussie Park, Balcatta. I think they're toward that $4,000 square metre, which is just insane given there's old offices in West Perth that are transacting less than that. So again, if you're buying a 300 square metre office warehouse in, let's call it for argument's sake, Malaga at $3,000 to $3,500 a square metre, that kind of gets you up toward that $1 million. So
would that be not classed as commercial? What's the difference between industrial and commercial?
It's all commercial's the banner, and then that's all the retail assets that kind of come under it. So you have resi commercial, and then you have asset classes. So office, medical, industrial, retail, service commercial.
So like our the ones on here are industrial?
Yeah, these are industrial. Yeah,
okay.
Industrial, I would say, and then obviously Unit 9 is an office, but I would classify this as a light industrial complex. Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Because you've got roller door access, warehouses with truss heights, that kind of thing. So
yeah, and which mean like they are obviously versatile depending on the person doing the fit out. Like
absolutely,
we've obviously made this into or entire office space, but other ones sometimes you might have like half office, half warehouse.
Yep. And normally it's probably a little bit more common to have a greater warehouse proportion to office.
Always, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's always been a pain when we've been looking at trying to move or buy a bigger property. Nothing really has a good combination of half office, half warehouse. It's all like...
You'd have to build the office.
Yeah.
Or go and buy an office building. So...
Where though?
Yeah, and when you're talking suburban, it's a little bit harder.
Maybe Osborne Park, if you're lucky. If not, you'd be going to the city.
Yep. So, I mean, there'd be a few from here to the city, but you talk areas like Malaga or Wangara or even Aussie Park, is the ratio of warehouse or industrial properties versus offices is, far weighted to warehouses because they're industrial areas. And then go to West Perth and you're not going to find any warehouses. Or Subiaco, they're a dime a dozen. So it's just how it works.
And with those areas that are further away from the city that are more industrial, you have to be careful with laws around how many parking bays you've got, because a lot of places don't really have
in the
enough
strata
parking.
complexes. That's always kind of a big dispute. I know that, or not a dispute, but always a point of pain is if you do have a heaving complex and everyone needs parking, it's and they're all trying to run their own businesses, it's chaos. There was a complex I was working on probably 8 or 9 years ago on Albany Highway in Kenwick when I first kind of started, and that had I think it was 22 industrial units, but one big driveway, and each unit had 2 or 3 bays, and it was just it was full as well. So you had 22 different businesses. It's just chaos because it's that's my common parking, that was mine, and you've got panel beaters and wreckers, and it was
skip bins everywhere.
Skip bins, and it was just chaos.
Why is that? Because it's even the same now. If you drive through Neighbouring, it's the same thing.
Just chaos.
When we was looking maybe early this year, potentially going to Neighbouring, it's the same thing. It's 400, 500 square meter warehouse, 3 designated bays, and street side parking.
It comes back to your DA. If you're a developer, you are going to get more money if you sell a bigger building, right?
Yeah.
And parking is generally just a amenity that is included when buying a property. So this is for any development, and it goes as far as saying even for mixed use or resi developments, is parking is an essential in the sense of it's a nice to have, but often if a developer can squeeze the envelope and get more building size and minimise that parking, then they're going to do that, because selling a 400 square metre building on it's just 101 is more profitable for them than selling a 350 square metre building, where 50 square metres of parking, you might add 3 bays or 4 bays, is really attractive to a buyer, but would a buyer pay more than having the bigger building? And generally when you're valuing it on the building size.
And that'll be why there's always maybe 50 square metres of office space, because you have to have X amount of parking per square metre of office space.
It depends it kind of depends on the nature of the asset and the industry. The main one when you're talking parking is medical. So each local council generally has in their town planning scheme a rule of thumb that is you have to have X amount of bays per practitioner. So that is generally where parking is the biggest issue. Whereas industrial areas, people will park on the curbs and the side of the roads and make it work. It's an issue in the sense of you've got oversupply of cars, but you kind of just make it work. But in medical, if you actually want to get a medical development approved or a change of use approved, parking is the linchpin of getting it approved or not.
Okay.
Because then you also have your patients coming in and out the whole time. Whereas an industrial business generally, it depends what type of business, obviously. If you're customer focused, you need more parking, but industrial business often as well will just need its staff to be able to park somewhere.
Yeah.
And might have less customers, more deliveries or something like that. Whereas if you're running a GP practice, you're turning over patients, every 20 minutes.
And what is the ratio for them?
It depends on the council. Often it's 4 bays per consultant or practitioner. So you do have to have pretty generous, if you're running a GP, that's why you see car parks.
Because they're always running late, so you
20
probably
and
have
30,
2 or 3 people waiting
the overlap,
for you.
that's right. That's exactly
that's
right.
Why?
So of course. So that's why, parking in getting medical developments, or even just like I said, change of uses from office to medical, parking's everything. And then
would retail be somewhat similar, with a gym, somewhere like that? I know
gym
around here, it's with the new Dave and Buster's, the car park is chaotic now.
Yep, gym's a great example as well. And you can't really monitor. You don't have that same level of control, I suppose, as you would with medical, because with medical you can just forecast.
Yeah.
The doctor can only literally see so many people during the day. And then, like I said, if you've got more than one doctor, then you need more parking. But with a gym, it's probably just chaos because there's no real ceiling on.
You might have 200 members, you might have 3 in at midday, but you might have 150 at 4 or 5
at 5 o'clock. That's exactly right. So gyms are chaos. yeah, I know the Revo that went in on Oxford Street in Mount Hawthorn as an example. I don't think there's an abundance of parking around there. So you can just see like young uni students like, you know, parking wherever they can on Oxford Street or around the surrounding suburb. That's put a bit of pressure on that little locality, just as an example, on street parking especially.
You obviously work a lot with business owners that are buying and selling property. What patterns do you see happening at the moment with the recent budget and tax changes?
Too early to say, to be honest. I think in terms of actual action, I would just say that the market has probably been a little bit spooked, is the word I would use, between that having 3 consecutive rate rises and then, the budget coming out, which is, I don't like to get too political, but I do feel it's anti-aspirational is probably the best way to put it, or anti-ambitious. So there's a little bit of, a bit of uncertainty there. End of financial year can also lead to decision makers holding off making a decision till the new financial year as well. But all in all, like I alluded to at the start of this, is that I'm so bullish on WA, and still lots of capital, and, for the right type of assets, people are still making decisions, which is fantastic. So, my feeling is that kind of the repercussions of the budget on the commercial market will hopefully just put in our rear vision mirror, and people will get on with business as they always do in WA. We're a really resilient market, and it's a good one to be a part of, because WA business owners kind of just get on with it, which is great.
I agree. That's what we usually say. Like with the budget, sometimes it's like 2 to 4 weeks and everyone just forgets and moves on.
I agree.
There's rumours that there's 2 more rate increases this year. Is that right?
Again,
is that the rumour?
Yeah, definitely one. But it'll come back to what inflation looks like. So they're a product of one another. And
when does the inflation?
I'm not sure when they're going to make a decision around that, or what inflation. Inflation, I think our last CPI is over 4%, so it's definitely not under control. But in terms of when they'll actually make a decision around how that then impacts it, the RBA, we'll have to wait for the RBA to make the next announcement. So, sit and wait. But it's not ideal.
What do we hope for best case scenario? Just stays as is. As is
would be best case scenario. I'm sure any business owner listening would agree they just pay too much tax, so you don't need a rate rise as well to compound all that cash flow going out the door, when I know businesses are working very hard to, be profitable, stay afloat, pay staff.
We've just had, you're probably aware, but the super now, you have to pay super on the same day as payroll.
Yep.
We have to pay payroll tax monthly now. PAYG we pay weekly, and our BAS GST now has gone from quarterly to monthly. So put all those cash flow situations at the same time, and it's very difficult to...
So let me ask you this question. As a business owner, are you encouraged to go out and do your own business? I know you did it years ago, but if you were starting a business up tomorrow, is this current climate encouraging young entrepreneurs and business owners to do what you've done and go out on their own?
No way. So risky.
Right.
As you know, like we had a terrible year last year. We lost a heap of money. We've had to sell. We're selling our 3rd building out of the 4, so we're going to be left with 1 building with a third of the team, which for the business is going like it's already better. But we lost a heap of money. It's so risky. Most people would just give up, and you get bankrupt, and then you don't pay all your tax bills.
Yep. So as a society, I think it's being set up to encourage the next wave of people like you who did put your neck out and sacrifice and go for it, right? Go for it, having your own business, employing people who have families, and then that's how it works. And the next wave of young people like you are going to be disencouraged to do that, and it'll basically send the message to play it safe. Stay in your lane, play it safe, which I just think is a travesty, to be honest.
Well, I mean, the timing saying that, which sounds like you're saying that most people are going to be employees with AI disrupting the market on top of everything we've spoken about, it could be an interesting time.
Yeah, it's just so disappointing. Like, it's, again, like Australia's, and WA especially, is just like literally the land of opportunity. And I don't think, whether it's tech or, the industry you're in, the industry I'm in, you're just not encouraged to do it anymore, which it's so disappointing.
It's so true. Like, we're probably the largest electrical aircon business in WA, specifically residential, and we've only got like 20 vans on the road.
Yep.
So to me, that just says there's a huge opportunity here. There's not crazy amounts of competition. There's a lot of one-man bands and stuff, but statistically speaking, it's like 1 in 5 or 1 in 7 businesses don't get past the first 5 years or something. So most people don't hang around. Again, going back to customer service, that's, I think, why usually we're pretty successful, because we do have a high level customer service. We do what we say. We pay the highest rates to our tradies, which means we do charge more. But again, if the customer service is there, people pay more. They'll pay a premium to have the job done properly by a reputable business that isn't going to disappear in 2 years' time.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't agree more. But yeah, it's if you had a bit more support externally, it would be good as well, wouldn't it? Where I just think in terms of recent reform, it's kind of the opposite, which is really disappointing as a business owner, and you're a business owner as well. So
what's the situation with all the memes about the company ownership? Is that there's rules change as well about selling a business?
I'm not across that, to be honest with you.
All those ones where it's like
I said, not on Instagram. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not across the repercussions.
There's like all these memes
selling.
about Albanese being like 47% owner of your business or something.
Oh, I think that just comes back to more the tax that business owners pay, and the fact that you're getting taxed at, every single angle you turn at, you're getting taxed. So in many ways, I think people say he's your silent business partner, but never
that's
probably stepped a foot in the door. So, again, just the level of tax you pay in this country is exorbitant. But again, from my background in economics, it's pretty simple. If government is spending X amount, they have to tax a certain amount to match that. So it actually comes back to, not to make this conversation about politics, but government expenditure federally is just out of total control, and they have to match that expenditure by taxing, the Australian people. That's
I've got to hope the GST doesn't go up.
Yeah, but who knows? Who knows? Until expenditure gets under control. I mean, the blowout for NDIS, it's like a $50 billion industry now. It's insanity. So, yeah, hopefully we can get some control there, and then small and medium business owners maybe get a break.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it'd be good. It's, as they say, the cliche, they're the backbone of the economy. So, yeah, they need to be supported, not put under more pressure.
For sure. Should we turn the table?
Yeah, let's do it.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's a good question. Personally or professionally?
Let's go professionally.
Professionally, good question. Just trying to think. Look, Rob Sellard was in many ways still is my mentor, and I think I learnt a lot of just copying what he did. And it was just simple. It's not things I didn't know, like, to be honest, to work hard. But like, I just kind of followed a lot of the things he did. My dad has run his own business for over 30 years, and he's always been my number one role model in terms of just how to be a good man, and then also as a professional as well. And there's consistent themes between those two guys. It's always just like work hard, like work really hard, but always do the right thing. And then I've found if you do the right thing, just means being honest and disclosing and all those kind of things. If you do those two things and couple that with product knowledge, because if you do that and you've got no idea of what you're doing or saying, then you won't go anywhere. But if you kind of put those three things together, then in my opinion, that sets anyone up to succeed in whatever industry you're in. So be honest and transparent, work really hard, and then know your product back to front. And that kind of comes back to whether you're selling outdoor furniture like I was many years ago, or selling real estate. It's just product is product, or selling electrical services. Like, your product and your service is everything. So a long-winded way to answer that is, I try to keep it simple in that sense.
What business does your dad do?
Dad runs a limestone business in Lansdale. So they have quarries in Narragapp, which is a bit around here actually, a little bit further north. Yeah. And quarry natural limestone, and then also process reconstituted limestone, which does freeway extensions, subdivisions. They've been a big player in that the WA materials construction industry for over 30 years. Yeah.
It's interesting because even though that's a completely different business to what you're in now and what I'm in, there's so many things in business that translate between. Like, obviously they would have sales, they would have customer service,
staff,
and everything in between. Staff.
Managing staff. And that's what I've always admired as well about Dad's business, and that's been a driver for me to be a business owner as well, is that idea of being able to influence the decisions that the business makes. And then I love that idea of supporting employees, because every employee has somewhere that they go home at night time and has families or mortgages or whatever it is. But having, employees that your business can support, I think that's pretty cool as well.
So you mentioned earlier, do you have 80 within your business?
Yeah, we have staff of 80. That's right.
Yeah, okay.
So majority are based at our St. George's Terrace address, and then we have a few that are off-site at some of the facilities and bigger buildings that we manage as well. So it's a combination of our workforce is divided into departments. So we have a massive property management department, valuations, our finance and trust team, and then our sales and leasing team as well. And we also have a residential business that we own as well.
And it operates from the same building?
Yep, from St. George's Terrace. But the resi guys are sometimes on site because they do project marketing. So they might be working out of, sales demountables and things like that. So it's quite a diverse business, which then brings in a range of, like I've kind of alluded to, different personalities and different cultures and people from all sorts of countries. And yeah, I just think it's pretty awesome because you're kind of all working under the same banner, but you've got all these people with different backgrounds and stories and different drivers and motivations. But I'm really proud of the culture that we've built at Burgess Rawson. And, I think that we're the type of, not giving it a plug or anything, but I think it's a type of business that people actually like to come to work to. And that kind of concept of open door policy and being transparent back to staff and, trying to identify who we are as a business. And that's, our mantra has always been to try and be a premium and the best mid-tier agency in WA. That's our goal as a business.
And with mid-tier as in value range of property?
Mid-tier in terms of, where we specialise. So, we're not trying to sell big CBD towers. That's not our area of expertise. We're not trying to be a CBRE or a JLL. That's, where we work is occasionally you do some institutional work, but the majority is with mum and dads. And that's where we thrive and we do our best work. So it's part of, I'm sure it's the same as your business. You've got to identify where you want to play, because if you try and, be a jack of all trades, as I say, you're a master of none. So I'm sure you can probably resonate with your area of business in terms of where you guys specialise and what works for you.
Yeah, definitely learned a lot about that this year, and we've spoken about it pretty much in every podcast. But we try to do every single trade, literally all the trades, and because me as a business owner doesn't fully understand how to do those other jobs. It's just impossible to stick to your niche.
Yeah,
sure.
And I think there's something for saying for that in even your personal business, that then you identify that and then you kind of run more linear towards where do you, where's your core competency of what do what you know. So
yeah, stick to your niche.
Yeah.
So with your residential part, is that the same business, different business name?
That trades as Hive Residential.
Okay.
So, and we've got, several sales reps, but they're all Burgess Rawson people. So
I was going to ask, is there any crossover at all?
Yeah, well, it used to be Burgess Rawson Residential, and then we've rebranded it. So
why did you rebrand?
Well, we're a commercial agency, and that's what we're known for as a commercial agency. So it's been a really positive move, and it gives those guys a bit of separation while still being part of our family. So
it's called Hive, Hive.
Yeah, Hive, like a beehive, Hive Residential. So, and they're all, like I said, Burgess Rawson people who have been at our company for 10 odd plus years, some more. So, they're part of the fabric of our business, but it gives them that kind of separation so they can do their own thing as well.
And how different is it between residential and commercial?
Totally different ballgame. You're doing the same thing, and all those, qualities that I alluded to of working hard and following up and being honest, that's sales. So it doesn't matter, like I said, if you're selling kitchen sinks or selling real estate. But resi is definitely I've never sold resi, but from my understanding, it'd be a more emotional sale, because you're selling to people their place of residence. It's where they go to sleep every night. That's where they make their dinners. That's where their kids grow up. So you've got to sell the dream, which sounds ridiculous, but you do. You sell the dream, and it's an emotional sale. Whereas I find in commercial, you're selling to business owners. So it's about how many bums on seats can you get? What is, if you're leasing, what is the rent, and then how much are we turning over? Can we pay that sort of rent? What does our growth look like? So you don't need to really sell the dream of growth in residential, other than, are you guys going to have more than one or two kids, or you're going to have, are you going to downsize? Like, they're easier questions to ask, whereas that example I gave of that software business signing a lease, they didn't know they were going to double in size. I think a family kind of knows if they've got 2 kids, they know if they're going to have another 2 kids. Generally, you kind of plan those things. So yeah, I would say it's a much more emotional sell in residential, whereas commercial is more black and white. It can be emotion attached because you do have owners who love their building, and that might be the building that they started the business in 20 years ago. So there is emotion, but it's a different type of emotion.
Yeah, that is so true. I just think that if we moved houses like we've moved offices, I'd probably be divorced.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and that's, like I said, that's the house where you have your memories. So it's totally different. So you have, work memories are a lot different to family memories. So
business.
Yeah, of course it is. So it's much more black and white in that sense. So those guys have a different skill set that they can, like I said, sell the dream a little bit differently. Whereas, yeah, we kind of sell the business dream, if that makes more sense, or the commercial dream in the sense of it just comes back to what works for your business.
Yeah, so true. We've learned so much over the last few years.
Yep.
Even like the rental yield thing that I was just speaking with you and my finance broker about, like, yeah, if the rental yield doesn't make sense on paper, like we're not going to get the loan anyway. Yep. So it's like things are so, I suppose, more like factual.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas price per square meter, like residential doesn't work like that. It's not like 3,000 per square in residential, not at all.
How many bedrooms has it got?
Is it close to the beach? How many bedrooms? How close to the schools? Is it on a main road in a cul-de-sac? Like, it's so different.
Did you fall in love with the house, like kind of thing? Whereas I don't think you have to fall in love.
How did your gut feel?
Yeah, you don't have to really fall in love with an office warehouse. It's got to be functional. So there's a big difference in that sense as well.
Yeah. Where can people find Burgess and Rawson?
Yep. So I would say go on our website. I do have a LinkedIn profile. I just don't use it very much, but go on our website, Burgess Rawson, and my email and phone number's there. So always happy to, like I said, it's a long game. So always happy if people even just want to go, what's my property worth? Could you get me a feeling? Or I'm in the market to buy something. What do you recommend? Just call me, talk about commercial real estate. I love it. So, and like I said, because I'm so passionate about the industry as well, that's having those conversations is really good because you get more people in the market, you help people get out of the market, other people back in, but it's all commercial real estate. So it's all good.
Thanks so much for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Kane.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Unlocking Business. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please take a second to like, subscribe, and follow our channels. It really helps us to bring on more guests and have great conversations. If you'd like to connect with today's guest, the details are in the description below. I'm Kane Tyler Smith. I'll see you on the next one.